Hare Krishna. Hello everyone out there. And yes, we're back. And here we're going to present the subject of Bhakti Yoga further. Okay, so here we're going to be reading a verse. This is Bhagavad Gita. Okay, if you don't have this book, Bhagavad Gita, as it is, I could recommend you get it. They sell it on Amazon, and you can also purchase the book on this website. It's called Krishna.com. That's Krishna.com. I highly recommend that. I highly recommend this website, and you can purchase this book there as well. So I'm going to be reading one passage from this book. And the Bhagavad Gita, let me just explain that the Bhagavad Gita is like everything you need to know about the art of yoga, the art of what is the science of yoga, the different kinds of yoga, what is karma. I'm sure that, you know, almost everybody knows what karma is. What is the science of reincarnation, like that. It's just like the Bhagavad Gita is like the Bible of yoga. It's like anytime that you want to know about the art of yoga, or or about Bhakti yoga, or basically about any kind of yoga, the Bhagavad Gita has everything you need to know about that. So I'm going to be reading a passage from the Bhagavad Gita. This is chapter 2, text number 13, and in this part of the book, it talks about reincarnation, how the soul, being us, is reincarnating or taking one body after another according to our karma. This is what this section of the Bhagavad Gita is talking about. So I'm just going to read you one passage, and we're going to offer a little bit of commentary, and then we can close up this video. And afterwards, if anybody likes to make a comment or question down below, I'll be happy to answer you. Okay? So, again, I'm reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is. I highly recommend you get this book. It's by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Okay? And this is the best book you'll ever get. Okay, it'll teach you everything you need to know. Okay, so here it is. This is chapter 2, text number 13, and the chapter is entitled Context of the Gita Summarized. Okay, so I'll read the verse, word for word translation, and the translation itself. And it goes like this. Dehinosmi nyata dehe komanam yovanam jara tata dehantara praptir diras tatra namuyati. Okay? Dehina, of the embodied. Esmin, in this. Yata, as. De, in the body. Anyways, I'll go to the translation. So, but basically, just to let you know that anytime that you read a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, you're going to see the Sanskrit here, okay? Then you're going to see the word for word translation of each word, which was I'm doing. So in this case, I'm going to go to reading the translation and the purport. Okay? As the embodied soul, which is us, as the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body, and since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there is no cause for lamentation by Arjuna on account of death, neither for Bhishma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Okay, so I'm just going to explain to you what Srila Prabhupada was meaning by that. Arjuna, Krishna is the speaker of the Bhagavad Gita, okay? And Arjuna is the student. He's the one who is his student. He's the one that Krishna is teaching the art of yoga to, okay? Now, Bhishma and Drona, okay, are characters that you'll find in the Mahabharata. Now, the Bhagavad Gita is taken from, it's a talk, and it's in the Mahabharata. And the Mahabharata is considered to be the history of Greater India. It talks about all the major histories, the battles, the great warriors, etc., etc. And there was a situation where as soon as there was going to be a great big war, a great big battle going on, then what happened is that as soon as that war, before that war started, anyways, what happened is that Arjuna did not want to fight. He saw his teachers, he saw his relatives there on the other side, and he did not want to fight with them. So Bhishma and Drona are personalities that were very familiar. Arjuna knew them, okay? Bhishma was very close to him, so was Drona, and he saw all these personalities, and he was very hesitant to engage in warfare against them. He did not want to fight them. So when Srila Prabhupada talks about, and I'll read it for you again, it says, this individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjuna. No limitation, meaning that Arjuna did not want to fight because naturally nobody wants to fight with the people that they grew up with close relatives, etc., like that. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is talking about here. So I'll read further. Rather, he, Arjuna, should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble souls, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least life in heavenly bodies for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause of lamentation. I'll just read a little further. Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul, and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhira, or most sober man. Such a man is never deluded by the change of bodies. Okay? Now, first of all, I'd just like to make a prayer before I comment any further. I always do this, or I used to do this in these basically before I talk, and I just like to do this because this way I feel like I'm receiving blessings and I'm able to talk. So I'll do these prayers before. Om Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Hridaya Nanda Goswami Itanamane Namaste Gurum Sai Paramananda Menase Prabhupada Pramodai Dusta Sanantanasine. Om Gyana Timaran Hasha Jana Jana Slakaya Chakshul Uminitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master who has opened my eyes, which are blinded by darkness. I offer my respects unto him. Jayesh Vancha Kapara Tobias Cha Kripa Sinabhyava Cha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so basically what Srila Prabhupada is talking about here is a basic understanding of reincarnation. Now, how can we understand reincarnation and whether that is true, that exists? Well, we have proof of that at this present moment. How do we have proof of that? Well, our bodies are constantly changing right now. Okay, we don't have the same, I'm 52 years old, but I don't have the same kind of body as I did when I was 5 years old. Okay, I have different hair, my nails grow into new nails. Even by medical research, they found investigations that the body changes every 7 years. New cells take over old ones. So even the body is changing right now, but we ourselves, the soul, the person within inside this body, the person who's speaking, the person who's listening, like right now I'm speaking, I'm conscious of certain situations. You see? So that is the soul within inside the body. That is the conscious being within inside this body. But we're not this body. Eventually the body grows old and dies. But us, being the conscious person within inside this body, being the conscious being, the soul, never dies. He just goes on to another body according to one's karma. Just like energy doesn't die, energy, it just transfers. You see, when you have certain wires and when you have certain ways to transfer one energy to another, either through a plug or whatever the case may be, you just transfer to the energy so you can use that energy for productive resources. Similarly, us being the conscious being within inside this body, can be attributed to that same energetic force. We don't die, okay? We just transfer on to another body according to our karma. Now, one may question, well, this is contradictory to a lot what has been given to us about the situation about the hell or heaven. I was told that there is no reincarnation, that either you go to hell or heaven, or there are atheistic people who are giving credit where credit's due. There are people who say, well, there is no God, there is no hell and heaven, there is not even a reincarnation. When you die, that's it, you just get buried under the ground. In reality, atheism is not really, if we think about it, when we think about it, atheism is not a really good philosophy, and we can explain why. Because atheism, what it does, it proposes, okay, that there is no God and there is no one person that knows everything. So it's self-contradictory, because let's suppose that we give the atheist the benefit of the doubt that there is no God. Okay, let's suppose there is no God. That means that there's no one being that knows everything. If there's no one being that knows everything, that means that how do I know whether there's a God or not? You understand? In other words, it's self-contradictory. That means I wouldn't know whether there's a God or not. In other words, that means that if there is not one person that knows everything, which this way we're talking about God, that means that I don't know everything. And if I don't know everything, how can I say, or how can I make the proposition that there is no God? So it's kind of like, it's sort of like a philosophy which contradicts itself. Because you're trying, because if nobody knows everything, okay, that means we don't know everything. If we don't know everything, that means we don't know whether there's a God or not. So it's kind of like, it's really not a really good philosophy. And the other side of it is that atheism proposes that there is no creator involved, which is also self-contradictory, because in this world you see that that their seasons come every time of the year. The sun rises a certain time, the moon rises a certain time. There's a certain organization within nature. So to say that there's nobody, just like, for instance, let's suppose if you go to a store or you go to a company, you know that that company cannot run by itself. There has to be a manager behind everything. There has to be somebody who's running the show. Okay, there's somebody behind all this thing that's producing, okay, these in order to run that business. So what to speak of this earthly planet, this universe? We never see anything without a cause. If you actually see, if you never see a car, okay, being driven by itself, even though right now they're trying to build self-driven cars, but still, you know, even though self-driven cars, there's a brain that's building that, you see. So the self-driven car is not built by itself, you see. So, and there's other people who say, well, you know, there is no, it's just very self-contradictory. It's really not a common sense type of philosophy. You really kind of like, it's sort of like you really have to really confuse your mind really deeply and go really deep, you know, and to create such a huge confusion that ultimately out of the result of this confusion you just become kind of frustrated, and out of the frustration you just say, okay, there is no God, which is kind of like the result of just basic confusion, just basic you know, frustration that, you know, we couldn't figure it out. So basically that's what atheism is. It's just a frustration that we cannot figure things out. And because we cannot figure things out, then we just say, okay, there is no God. But it's just like an emotional frustration. But really, if you think about it, it really doesn't make any sense. So I just thought I'd put that out there, just to kind of give credit to atheists, you know, to make sure that I understand, you know, where more or less where they can be coming from, or, you know, whether they're watching this, etc. But then there are others who say, well, that's okay. That's okay. You know, there are others who say there is a heaven and hell. Okay? So that's also self-contradictory. Okay? I'm just going to have to move the phone here because right now it seems like I'm running out of battery. So let me just move the phone before I run out of battery and just plug it in, making sure. There we go. Just thought I'd plug that in just to make sure that I don't run out of battery. And just to go on with my talk, then there are others, okay, who say that about the heaven and hell situation, that no, the art of reincarnation and the science of reincarnation, that philosophy is just a trick of the devil, etc., etc. That philosophy, you know, it's kind of like, when you come to think of it, okay, really that's, you know, given the benefit of the doubt, okay, that there is a God, why would God condemn us to hell? Why would God condemn us to hell forever without giving us a second chance? I mean, that would make God the supreme, the most evil person. If you think about it, there's no that means that if there is a hell that you go there forever, that means there's and you can't have no way of redeeming yourself or rectifying yourself. That would make God the most evil person there is. Because what greater evil person would punish his own children forever because you decided to accept a different doctrine than others? It just really doesn't make sense, come to think about it. So, and just, and burn in fire forever. That means, really think about it. When we grew up with our parents, usually, and especially when we had good parents, not parents who spoil their children. And we don't want to talk about those, parents who spoil them. But I'm talking about good parents. They usually, if the children does something bad, they will punish them. They will probably tell them not to turn on TV or no music, etc. And then they would sometimes they would get a little hard. They would say, "Go to your room." But you don't see any parents punish their children and say, "Stay in your room forever." If you did that, what would that be considered these days? That would be considered abuse, child abuse. So God is not the supreme child abuser. He's not the supreme punisher. We being his children, he's not going to punish us forever. So it's just a matter of thinking. Just really think and just getting away from the dark ages and understanding that. So I'll be back. I'll be back in a few seconds. I'll just get my book back because I had to make sure I plug this phone. So I will be back and just make sure I read the rest of that Bhagavad Gita. A few seconds. I left in the living room and I'll be back. And excuse me, just for a second. Okay, here we go. So I'll read the rest of this. And like I said, those who wish to make a comment or questions, I'll be happily answer you. And like that. So it's just a matter of thinking, getting away from the dark ages. Of course, the art of reincarnation, the science of reincarnation doesn't also give us an excuse to do nonsense or to do things that are immoral. It's just a matter of, using our heads, that God will not punish for us forever because we have to get out of that. All right, so here it goes. I'm going to read the rest of the purport, and then we can conclude from here. And I think anybody who's listening on this YouTube channel, your presence is completely appreciated. Thank you. I'm continuing here. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that the spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls will make the supreme cleavable or changeable. Against the principle of the supreme souls being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the supreme exist eternally and are called kasara, that is, they have a tendency to fall down into material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same, fragmental. But once liberated, he lives in eternal life and bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the supersoul, who is present in each and every individual body and is known as a Paramatma. He is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represent both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to living entities and the sun or the moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragment of spirit soul is represented by Arjuna, and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level, as it will be apparent in the beginning of the 4th chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then the relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by the illusory energy, Maya, then there is no need of one being the instructor and the other the instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior position to the living entity, Arjuna, who is a forgetful soul deluded by Maya. Okay, so just again, I'm going to advise everyone, okay, to purchase this book. This is absolute the best book you will get, and I'm not speaking hyperbole as well. It's Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada. You can order it on Amazon. I'm sure it's on Kindle as well. And just read it, man. I mean, get a chance. Just read it. Just absorb it, and like that. So we'll conclude from here. And again, I 100% speaking, I give thanks for everybody who listened to this. And we can just conclude from here. Okay? Any questions, again, you can post them here. I'll get back with you. Have a great day. Hare Krishna.